Hello, greetings and welcome. Okay, so what is magic? What does it mean? What is the center of gravity of the practice? Where does it start and where does it finish? What's the destination? Why do people practice magic? So the center of gravity of magic is a concept known as magical equilibrium. It's the emptiness in the center of gravity underlying all things. As form and emptiness interact, there's the particles, the form arise out of emptiness and they disappear back into emptiness. The easiest way to access that is the center of gravity of things. So when you look at the center of gravity of your entire spiritual practice, it's your relationship to magical equilibrium, to emptiness. So how do we practice this? How do we get there? It's a very simple exercise, which is a foundation exercise, where you lift your hands up, stretch your fingers, focus the will on the breath, put the breath into the stretch, and put your awareness outside the body, in the ball. And then condense your willpower and breath and stretch into that space. After a few minutes, you'll start to feel an electromagnetic fluid. And that's called life force. It's got a magnetic quality to it. Now this life force, as you concentrate it, two things start to happen. You get energetic awareness, you get sensitivity to the edge of the physical, to living energy that animates all life in the physical world, and you get power. And that power is your ability to accumulate and use this energy. So we tune the stretch of our body so the whole body radiates life force once we can feel it. So we have these two ends of the spectrum, quality, quantity. In the middle is equanimity, stillness, the magical equilibrium. The more you concentrate, the more you feel, the more power you can swing, and the greater the stillness that accumulates under the mind. So you're essentially building a door into emptiness through concentration. That concentration swings the pendulum between qualitative awareness, developing insight, developing intuition, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all your awareness skills, while harnessing the power of life force and utilizing that life force. So this is the basic practice. Willpower, breath, stretch, condense outside the body, feel life force, qualitative awareness starts developing through the sense gates, your ability to move that energy increases, and there's your basics of opening of the path. Now, when we look at, okay, well, we're getting these intuitive senses to read people, read environments, to practice psychometry and clairvoyance and understand the spiritual worlds that are beyond the physical, and we're cultivating life force for health and longevity and so forth. Well, what more is there? What can we do with this? If we want to move it beyond this base level and bring it up, we need to look at what are the qualities of the spirit. Now the spirit has four elemental qualities. Omnipotence, supreme will and concentration. It has insight, the ability to understand things where they were, where they are and where they're going, the stream of evolution of things. There's universal love as a water element pillar. And then there's omnipresence, your connection to the environment. So most magical traditions start with omnipresence. Let's build the earth pillar first. So if you do this vital breathing exercise of building the ball, you do it in front of a tree. You take a leaf that's fallen on the ground from the tree, you smell it, you tune your mind to the smell, and then you breathe into the smell, you breathe into the tree. You get a life force resonance with the consciousness of the tree. The life force bridges your mind to the mind of the tree, to the spirit of the tree. And you develop this relationship. Now, once you've gone through all the trees in the forest, guess what happens? You become a keeper of the forest. You walk into the forest in the morning, the trees sing your name, they sing your frequency, they connect to your mind and say good morning, and you feel a part of that field of consciousness. You've started the path to omnipresence. Omnipresence starts with a type of ecological responsibility to your environment because you feel your environment is a part of you, that you are your environment. And this is the birth of expanding consciousness. You expand into your environment, into your home, into your family, into your neighborhood, and you radiate your awareness outwards and become sensitive to what is there. This is your starting point within the earth pillar. From that, the water pillar awakens. Love. When you're in union with something, you take care of it, you nurture it, you help it grow, you evolve it. You want to be a protector, a guardian, you want to nurture and love that environment. So your heart starts to open because it's a part of you. Your spirit is in resonance with that field of consciousness. Your astral soul, your personality is in resonance with that consciousness, and your body is in resonance with that consciousness within that space. So love starts to open. When love starts to open, insight arises. You start to understand how the environment functions, how to protect it, how the ecological system and the balance of that ecology works. You get insight into it. And then the will, the adventure spirit wants to wander. You want to go, okay, well, I'm connected to this space, feel part of it. What else is there? And you go outside of your boundaries. Now, it might be outside of your boundaries of your ego, your limitations, outside to build up your strength to transcend limitations of your body. Or it might be go, okay, I'm going to go adventuring and traveling and see more. So the adventure spirit awakens and you want to go outwards. Magicians are travelers, they're wanderers. When you profile every arahant in Thailand that attained nibbana, they're wandering in the forest and practicing, having new experiences. So this is how we start the journey. This elemental balance of fire, air, water, and earth, with magical equilibrium in the center, you balance this out. So you end up with a type of insight into mental hygiene. In order to maintain magical equilibrium, it's very, very important to generate a stillness in your mind, a stillness in your feeling, and a stillness in your body to enter that equilibrium. If the equilibrium's not there, the insight and the intuitive skills fall away, and chaos ensues within the alignment of the three bodies, of the mind, the astral body, and the physical body. So there's always developing this relationship to your environment through stillness. You're cultivating stillness, you're looking at how do you generate a new relationship to that chair, new relationship to your spoon, to your fork, so that when your mind touches the object, you move towards the stillness underneath the object to understand it as your mind raises into form. It's through stillness you know things. Through stillness you generate insight into things. So you develop this mental hygiene. And in Hermetics we put the positive sides on one side of the paper, the negatives on the other, and we transcribe a personality into black and white. We go, okay, this is my roadmap to success. I've got to navigate through all these emotions, bring them all into equanimity to move forward in the spiritual work, to move forward through magical equilibrium. And in doing so, we have a problem. What is good and what is bad? Now we have the cultural things that have been projected onto us, that this is good and this is bad, but that's not always the case. It's a little bit tricky here. So when we're vital breathing, you'll notice that some personality traits give you energy. Some personality traits empty and rob you of energy. This is a good starting point. This behavior, this thinking, happiness, joy, laughter, gives me energy. Sadness, being cynical, negativity, that takes away energy. So you run it through this filter. Now, when you look at this filter, you might, wait a sec, this is a sexual fetish, but it gives me energy. How can that possibly be true? Well, everything that gives you energy, you clean it up. And when you clean it up, your mindfulness of the activity will increase the amount of energy it gives you and give you a purity within that energy. And any lower dense frequencies inside of it, the energy it gives you is subject to rhythm, which drops and falls very, very quickly. So you'll get to know the law of rhythm inside how those thoughts, those feelings, those behaviors energize you. Some things will energize you momentarily and make you crash afterwards. Other things will energize you and give you happy memories that last, and give you a feeling of well-being that lasts, and you feel elevated and risen in the frequency of your mind. So looking at what gives you energy, and then you clean it up through mindfulness. You observe the rising and falling away of your thinking, your feeling, and your actions in relation to that behavior. And does it leave a sense of magical equilibrium behind when you engage it? Or does it give a sense of regret and, that's not really a good thing? So here we have a filter system. So you can regulate through common sense what is good for you, what energizes you, and what takes away your energy. And then clean up both of those platforms. The things that take away energy, put mindfulness to them, observe them, put energy into them, and discard them. You put energy into negatives to overwhelm them, and you put mindfulness into things to detach them and release. Okay, so we have this qualitative development, quantitative development, and we have concentration of living energy, life force, in the middle. And that life force concentration develops equanimity underneath that. The mind becomes very, very still. Now, when we want to move from this life force level up into these spiritual worlds, they run on a slower time continuum. As the mind accumulates stillness, the mind slows down, becomes slower, slower, and slower. So you breathe the life force in, you sit quietly, stop the breath, enter into the emptiness, release time, breathe the life force out. After a few minutes, the energy slows down, becomes thick, heavy, and dense. And it becomes thick, heavy, and dense because your mind is on a slower frequency and on a deeper spiritual world while your body is in the physical. It generates a contrast when you're relating to that energy from your body. As soon as you relate to that energy from the level from when it comes, it feels and appears normal. It ceases to be thick and heavy and slow. It'll just be that's the rhythm and rate of energetic vibration in that place. So you get into the spiritual worlds. Now, like the physical world, you have the physical field, you have physical objects, you have a physical organ in your body that perceives those objects, and you have consciousness. As you move through the vital and astral worlds, you have these vital and astral fields, you have these vital and astral objects, you have these vital and astral organs that sense these objects and these fields, and you have consciousness. So there's a method to developing your ability to see vital energy and see the astral spiritual world. There's a method for developing a feeling for the vital, which I showed you at the beginning of the video, and feeling the astral worlds, feeling these spiritual worlds. And same for hearing, smell, and taste. And the last gate of the mind is knowing, to know these spiritual worlds. So these four qualities of a field, an object, an organ, and consciousness need to be connected. Light comes into your eyes, the light touches the organ, and your consciousness interacts with the organ, and you have sight. Now, a lot of people think you're just going to see the spiritual world without the spiritual world touching your eyes. That energy needs to touch the organ for the consciousness to receive the information. And there's a skill in developing a stream through consciousness, sense organ, object in the field that it exists in. So in magic we develop those skills because they're essential skills. If you want to control energy and build power, you need to develop the sensitivity upon which that power is built. So we go qualitative training, quantitative training, qualitative training, quantitative training. You want more quantity, you need more quality. And we swing the pendulum backwards and forwards through different types of focus. If I apply my will to a feeling with an extremeness, my sensitivity will reduce as the energy increases. So I'll get more volume, but less sensitivity. But then once that volume's up and then I just pay attention to it and I observe it, then the qualitative awareness starts developing and absorbing because of the amount of volume that's there. So I move the mind from strong intent to attention. I just pay attention very, very softly and identify with the energy, allow my mind to become that energy and know that energy. So you get inner knowing. Your intuitive field of consciousness rises when you're inside a large volume of energy. And we swing backwards and forwards, quantitatively building energy, qualitatively investigating, understanding and knowing that energy. When the mind tunes into any particular thing, the more you identify as I am observing that object, that thing, there's a separation. You get less data. If my mind tunes into the object and I am that object and I let go of my identity to self, then I can fully know the object because my mind has much higher percentage of itself on the object. And that reflects into the consciousness and then I know that object, I know that thing. So we train these types of exercises extensively. So we've worked up into the astral spiritual worlds and then we start refining the mind itself. And we go back to a black and white mirror and mental hygiene. How equanimous is the mind? How much magical equilibrium have we accumulated in our relationship to our environment, in our relationship to all these objects, in the physical world, in the vital world, in these astral worlds, and then in the mental world of thought and consciousness. Magical equilibrium at its heart is the door between form and emptiness. And this is where we started the video. When particles appear and disappear, they move through a door. They vanish into the emptiness and they reappear in form. And they move through this etheric blueprint, this akashic body that is a blueprint of you. And as they come back into form, they rise up through that blueprint and they maintain the shape and consistency of your form so you don't change too quickly. You evolve slowly. When you recognize that door through balancing the elements and moving through that stillness in and out of the emptiness, you just follow what is. Your body's appearing and disappearing continuously. You just allow the awareness to move into that emptiness and then come back into form, move into the emptiness. You follow the natural rhythm of what is. Inside of that deep stillness, when you get to the other side of the door, you just relax and release into it and pay attention. So we call this law of vibration. Energy is electromagnetically fluxing, and energy is moving through emptiness and form at the same time. So there's two levels of perception in hermetics. The laws of rhythm and vibration and polarity make things do this, and the law of gender of the universe make things appear and disappear. So the yin side of the universe, the feminine side, is empty, and the yang side is creating. And this yin and yang relationship is the fabric of understanding magic. This is how magic functions. Everything you do within this process needs to be balanced by your intellect. And you have an intuitive experience, you journal it, you write it down, put it in your magic journal, you contemplate it, and you refine your method to improve the result that you get in your intuitive practices. So we're always balancing the intellect and the intuition. If you don't do this, your mind ends up believing in stuff you read in New Age books, which is mostly not true. Everything that is discussed and trained is a scientific method of mind, a scientific method of energy, and a scientific method of how the body interacts with these levels for you to develop yourself. Remember, a few hundred years ago, magicians were the scientists. And then a separation took place. And the church generated that separation. In the future, magicians will once again be the scientists, because everything that exists in quantum physics and all these higher sciences is the fabric of magic. And this is what we strive to do with this, to understand higher knowledge, to understand science in a very, very direct experience way. And that's what magic is all about. In the end, there's a statement, be still and know that I am God. That you are a vibrational match to divinity, and the only way you can know that is through stillness. So the Hermeticist trains magical equilibrium to enter the stillness, to go into the emptiness, look at their mind, and recognize their vibrational match to the universal mind, to touch their own divinity. That is the object of why people do it. That is the objective, to develop an alignment to divinity, to really know that you are a vibrational match to God. That's the fabric of the path. Thank you for your time. Stay happy.